Hi, thanks for joining us. I'm Bob Laliberte, Senior Analyst for the Enterprise Strategy Group, and I'm joined by my colleague, Nick Rouda, a Senior Analyst covering big data. This is the first of a series of blogs that we wanted to do delving into the concept of big data and networking. So Nick, thanks for joining me, and I think we should start this series off by basically just getting into, there's so much hype around big data. It's been one of those top IT initiatives for a long time, everyone's been talking about. But where are we from kind of reality? Are people spending money on it? Where are they spending money on it? Let's maybe discuss that for a few minutes.
Well, you're absolutely right, Bob. There's definitely a lot of good marketers out there building a lot of buzz on the topic, but for good reason, actually. The business impacts are pretty tremendous, and it has applicability to a wide range of industries and government applications. This year seems to be the year we're transitioning beyond the hype to real-world deployments, and as evidence of that, in ESG's 2014 IT spending intentions, we saw big data now emerge as a top 10 priority for investment. When we looked at data analytics trends in the enterprise, for more than half the companies we surveyed, they plan to increase spending between 11 and 30% this year. And to me, that signals a big jump. We're moving from a small deployment. You can do a proof of concept, a couple of servers, 5-node cluster, or whatever, test it out and get comfortable with the concept. But when you have this big spending jump, that suggests they're now doing enterprise-wide production rollouts.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. And that's usually the litmus test, isn't it? Right? It's not so much how much attention's being drawn to a topic, but whether or not organizations are actually spending money on it. So having that data, that research that actually shows organizations are going beyond just interest and actually spending their IT budget and deploying this in meaningful ways is really kind of indicating that this big data is crossing the chasm, if you will, in these enterprise accounts.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think is really interesting is a lot of these projects are being initiated not just by the head of IT, the CIO or VP of infrastructure. They're really almost as often coming out of a line of business where somebody in sales or marketing or R&D says, hey, I like these big data technologies. I want to see how I can deploy these, how I can make them relevant to my business. So you're getting a lot of drive coming from the business end of the spectrum, not just IT saying, hey, here's a new technology we'd like to kick around.
So that also has some really interesting implications for IT folks as well, right? In that they need to be aware that the business units are actively looking and deploying these technologies. And if IT wants to remain relevant, they really need to step up and be proactive in going to these business units and trying to figure out what type of big data initiatives they have and what role they can play in enabling that initiative.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of choice over how do I deploy these. There's increasingly platform as a service, SaaS as a service alternatives, even infrastructure as a service. So the line of business doesn't necessarily have to go to their own IT department to be the infrastructure provider for these. At the same time, IT's challenge is complicated because you look at who needs to be involved in these type of projects, and more so than any other major IT trend I've seen, this is a very collaborative, interdisciplinary type of approach to delivering a complete solution. For example, networking teams, your area, nearly 80% of respondents said it was important or even critical for the success of a big data initiative that somebody from the networking team be actively engaged in the design and development of that solution.
So that's really important. So for all you networking folks out there, right, big data is really something that they should be paying attention to and actively discussing within their environments and going to those business units and other IT groups that may be involved in this to ensure that they've got the appropriate network resources to support those big data initiatives.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of intersection points between big data and networking, and not all of them are fully appreciated. People quickly understand the server and storage implications, the security concerns, but networking to me is one of the areas that's going to have a really high impact in the overall success of these projects and initiatives. So I think that's something we should continue to explore.
Absolutely, that sounds great. Well, folks, that's it for this session. Thanks very much for joining us, and look forward to our next take on big data and networking.